So there's always a way to kind of add on that little extra touch as well when you're setting up those ticket sales.
We are in for a treat today. We've got Leah and Emily from Yaya's Sweet Treats and Fancy Snacks Charcuterie, respectively. Two entrepreneurs selling two very different things, cookies and charcuterie. But they have turned the art of hosting food classes into a science, in my opinion. They're going to share their formulas with you. They're going to show you how to plan it, how to host, and how to get people to sign up, most importantly. So Leah and Emily, thank you so much for joining us today. I will pass it over to you guys to introduce yourselves, and then we can jump right into learning how to create awesome classes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.
Sounds good. So as Emily introduced us, I'm Leah from Yaya Sweet Treats. And I guess what we'll do is we'll just jump right in. We're going to start by introducing ourselves. So I customize in royal icing sugar cookies. I have been officially making cookies since the beginning of 2020. I had the pleasure of going full-time this past September. So now I live, eat, breathe, survive on cookies. Basically just focus on events, custom treats, and yeah, we're located in southeastern Wisconsin, where it's beautiful and snowy today. I hope everyone's staying warm, and I'll let Emily introduce herself.
Hi, I'm Emily. I am the owner of Fancy Snacks Charcuterie. As Leah mentioned, we're in southeastern Wisconsin. We're right in between Milwaukee and Chicago. So we're kind of in a great location between two big cities. And I started my business back in 2020 during the pandemic. Kind of started as a pandemic hobby, really. I did morning radio actually for about 10 years. And when the world shut down, I was doing a radio show from my closet at home with my toddlers running around screaming. And I mean, you all know how it was. It was crazy and scary. So I started making little snack plates for my toddlers every day at noon. My son named them Fancy Snacks at the time. Every day he would ask for them right around lunchtime. And, you know, after a couple pictures on Facebook and Instagram, it just kind of started snowballing. I was having, you know, family and friends ask me to make snack boards. And then before I knew it, strangers were messaging me. So I, you know, kind of decided to make it a real thing. And it started as a little side hustle that I was doing. And then I just really couldn't keep up with demand. So I had to kind of make a choice about where I was going to go with my career, you know, stay in radio and wake up at 3:30 in the morning and kind of be miserable, or be my own boss and do something that I really love to do. So I chose this, and it's been almost 2 years now. I'm super happy. I do, you know, classic charcuterie boards, lunch boxes, grazing tables are all the rage now. And now most recently, thanks to Leah, we've started doing workshops, which has been a really awesome way to kind of broaden our business. And we're super excited to be here.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about how the journey began. So basically, when I first started my business in 2020, I was receiving lots of inquiries about hosting classes, and being brand new to the business. What I started doing was hosting private in-home classes for about 6 to 8 people. They would provide the space. I would show up with all of the cookies and the frosting and the tools and give them a more individualized class on the art of decorating cookies. Unfortunately, that lasted for about 2.5 solid months before COVID came and shut everything down. But I was able to kind of get my feet wet with the cookies and the classes, and just kind of, you know, put all of that on the back burner. But what it allowed me to do was kind of get the feel and the flow for classes, kind of get comfortable with my script of how to talk to people, what was important to teach them, and kind of always had the itch to return to doing classes. And that's when Emily entered the chat.
Yeah, so similar to Leah, I had done like 1 or 2 private workshops I am naturally a super anxious person. I do not like talking in front of people, which is strange because I mentioned I did radio for 10 years, but it's just different when you're in like a tiny room and no one's staring at you. So I had done a couple of small workshops for friends. So I knew kind of what I was doing, but I just was too anxious and nervous to, do a full big public one by myself. So at the time, Leah and I had become friends, just two local female-owned businesses in our city. And so I texted her and I was like, how would you feel about doing a cookie/charcuterie workshop where we do a small portion on charcuterie and a small portion on cookies, kind of a collaboration. And we do this together. And she was like, when do we start? So, I mean, we've done a few now. We went on tour. We paused that with the holidays and stuff because it was obviously crazy. But for once a month, we kind of decided we would go to a different location in our city, whether it's a restaurant, a bar, any type of place of business. And we were going to host these workshops together. And we didn't really know what to expect, but the response was like crazy. I mean, we had more businesses reach out to us, asking to host our class than we really knew what to do with. And that's something we're definitely going to continue in 2023 as well. And I, again, had no clue what I was doing. Leah was like the brains behind the operation. She, she's so good at everything in that department. So she just made it so easy for me to kind of, enter that part of my business. And I kind of learned a lot from her through that process, even though our businesses are totally different.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's jump into kind of the timeline of what to do when you're hosting a class. Oh, sorry, pause. The dream was born.
This is the most important slide.
Yes, just these were, for all you cookie decorators out there, had just purchased the Eddie printer, and Emily was the first person I hit up and I said, hey, I need you to bring a board to my house. I have some blank cookies and putting your logo on it and we're taking a picture. So
I was like, I'll be over later today. Yeah. And I mean, look how awesome they turned out. It's the coolest thing.
All right, moving on. So the first step in preparing to teach a class is to find your location. What Emily and I did was we used our social media to solicit businesses in the area. Like she mentioned, we said we were going on tour. We, really hyped up the anticipation for it, said we're looking for local businesses that would like to host us. Please reach out. And as she mentioned, we were just flooded with people asking for us to come host at their locations. Being here in Kenosha, we are situated right along Lake Michigan. We have a beautiful downtown area. And Emily and I kind of talked about, keeping on brand with what we're looking for. We really wanted to find locations that would match kind of the vibe we were going for our classes. But on top of that, there were some things to really think about. Was first and foremost, do they have access to tables and chairs for us to use for the participants to sit at? Second thing would be, what is the setup of the area we would be in? Is it immersed in the restaurant? Do we have a separate room, a banquet hall? Basically, what is the access for that venue? And then how many can they comfortably accommodate? Emily and I will also tell you at the beginning of this, we were like, yeah, 50 to 100 people per class. Let's do this. We did our first class and we were like, pump the brakes. We're going to go back to about 25 to 30 people.
That was a lot of people.
Yeah. And, being a combination course, obviously the cost is a little bit higher than if you were to just do a workshop on your own. So we really wanted people to feel like they were getting that individualized attention. They were getting the value of what they were spending. So I think it's important to kind of look at what you feel you're comfortable instructing, being able to really make sure people feel like they are learning from you and not just feeling like you're, instructing to, like a college course.
Rushed through a whole process really quick. Right. Exactly.
Right. And then also to touch on, do they have the necessary accommodations for your business? So being that we are two very separate businesses, Emily usually goes first. Per her anxiety, she has to go first.
Well, and okay, if you think about it, if you're going out to eat or whatever, charcuterie, because people are laughing at me.
I know.
Why are you going to punk me out like that in front of everyone? She's not lying. But yeah, and plus, like, if you're going out anywhere, right, you have charcuterie first, that's like the appetizer. And then cookies are like the dessert. So it just seemed to kind of flow in that well. And yes, because of my anxiety, I demand it.
Haven't you ever heard eat dessert first?
That's true. That's like your motto, I guess.
I
Yeah.
know.
I don't know what I
Anyway,
said.
sorry. But touching on that, what we need to make sure we have for our locations is that when Emily is done instructing and people have their boards completed, we then put them in a refrigerator that is on site so that their fresh produce and meats and cheeses stay fresh while we focus on the cookies. And also, just to clear off table space. So if you're doing a workshop by yourself, this might not be as important, but if you are doing a collaboration with somebody, it's definitely something to think about. Something else to touch on about the locations, we have found, I'm going to touch on 3 different places we did. The first place we kicked off at in Wisconsin, for anyone who's from our area, it's a place called Mars Cheese Castle. So what a great spot to start off our cheese and cookie tour. But
It's
we did
literally,
find,
by the way, it's a literal cheese castle. I mean, it's an actual castle where they sell, cheeses and meats and all that good stuff. So it's an awesome place.
it's very Wisconsin.
Yeah, very Midwest.
But the location was very open. So Emily and I kind of had a hard time getting our voices to project so that everyone could hear us. We were able to move about the room. It was also our first class. So, we had some kinks to work out. The one place we did it at was at a bar, a local bar downtown. And it was a wonderful space. We had kind of a secluded spot in the front, and the class was going very smoothly. And then as happy hour kind of hit and people were coming in for dinner, that location did get a bit noisy. And then the last one we did was at a restaurant, again, in our downtown area. That's the one that Matt came to from Cast Iron. And that was perfect. We had a room off of the side. We had little 4 top tables that people could sit at, and it allowed us to really move about the room smoothly. So if you really are looking into doing classes, it might not be a bad idea to kind of scope out your environment prior to committing to hosting classes there.
For sure.
All right. Anything else, Emily, on that one?
No, I was going to say the same thing. It's like little things that we didn't really think about because we had just kind of dove into this process and we didn't really know what we were doing, but I totally kind of scoping out the place and making sure the volume in there isn't too high and that it's just going to be accommodating and comfortable for everyone is super important, I think.
Absolutely. All right. Emily, you can take this one.
Okay, so the next thing you're obviously going to want to do is set up your ticket sales. So as far as like the price point that Leah and I went with, she kind of went with what she would charge for her class. I went with what I would charge for my class. And that's just kind of how we figured out our ticket prices. We were worried, or at least I was worried, at least in the beginning, like, is this too high or is it going to be too much? But our first class sold out right away. Almost all of our classes have completely sold out. And we've actually had repeat customers come back. So actually there's been a woman who, has she been to all 3 of our classes, Leah, or just 2? You know what I'm talking about? Yeah, I think she
couldn't make it to the tavern one.
Okay. But we've had a couple of different repeat customers come back. So that shows us like we're doing a good job and the price is both within like an affordable means for people and also making us a profit. So we obviously used Cast Iron to set up our ticket sales. They make it so easy. Directed people to Cast Iron when it was time to purchase tickets. And, like I said, with Leah being the brains behind the operation, she had a different variations, which I thought was so genius. When she was setting up the ticket sales where you could not only come and do the workshop, but if you wanted, you could take home like a do-it-yourself cookie kit, so there's always a way to kind of add on that little extra touch as well when you're setting up those ticket sales. And then for promoting it, I feel like Leah and I are both pretty strong when it comes to social media. Like we know kind of what to post to engage our specific clientele and how to get them excited and motivated to do things. So, we both posted, this is where we're going to be. Our last one sold out. Make sure you get your tickets fast. And then of course, like the places that we held our events, then they're sharing our posts. So not only is it good exposure for them, it's good exposure for us because they're sharing, come out and see Leah and Emily and learn how to make cookies and a charcuterie board. And I also, how I mentioned, we've had a couple people that have been repeat customers that have come to more than one workshop. So we try and switch it up every class. For the most part, I'm doing kind of the basics for each class, right? Like I'm teaching people how to make a salami rose. I'm teaching people how to slice manchego. I'm talking about what pairs well with what, but for October, we did like a Halloween themed board, right? So I did brie that, I taught everyone how to cut brie into a mummy. Leah did Halloween, themed cookies, which were just freaking adorable. And every month was kind of a different theme, right? So that it's something that people can come back to if they've done one, because you're learning something a little bit different every time. So you kind of want to market that event in like a fun theme and a fun way that engages people and keeps them coming back. The first workshop we did, as far as doing follow-up posts go, the first workshop we did, we barely had to do any follow-up posts because it sold out so fast. We like had hyped it up so much. People were so excited. But then the next two events, as long as you're engaging, post ticket sales a couple weeks before, as far in advance as you can when you get it booked, and then really pump it up. We're halfway sold out already. Make sure you get your spot today. Closing ticket sales tomorrow, really making it a point to make people know that it's going to sell out and you're closing up shop soon. And so it's a priority for them to go ahead and book those tickets and engage with people when they're commenting on your posts. Engagement is so huge, and interacting with those customers, telling them to tag their friends, and so on and so forth.
All right. I kind of want to answer some of the questions that I've been seeing come in to touch. We will do questions and answers at the end as well. But some of these, just before we get too far off topic, somebody asked me what the name of the printer was. It's called the Eddie, EDDIE. It is a direct printer, prints directly onto the cookie.
It's witchcraft. I can't even believe something. It's insane.
Yes. And then I did want to talk about this for finding the location. Somebody asked the question of payment for the venues. So one thing Emily and I did find, which might be unique to our market, is that we were able to drum up enough interest that honestly, people haven't even asked us for payment for using their space. We do think it is because we are driving a lot of business into them as well. We did kind of discuss what would happen if that came up, but as it stands right now, we haven't had that situation arise. I do know others though who have hosted classes where a venue might say this is the fee per month. And in that situation, I think it would be important to look at how many you can host. If you have the ability to do 2 classes a month, in that space, and just kind of figure out how many tickets you would need to sell before you start turning a profit. And always, try to negotiate that rate, and shop around. Some places might be willing to have you host for a lower rate. But like I said, Emily and I have not been in that situation yet. And I know there are some other questions, but I think we can probably, there was one here about taxes. Through cast iron, how do you manage taxes when hosting classes on someone else's property? And I don't know if I'm 100% correct on this, so help me if I'm not, Emily, but Emily charges sales tax through cast iron, so that is factored into the cost of our classes. But as far as what the host location has to worry about, I guess I'm not 100% sure on that.
Same. I would have the same answer. Yeah.
Okay. And then have you found a day to be the best time or week to host classes? We stick to Thursdays mostly because it's kind of Friday Eve. We usually start around 4:30 and go till 7:30, but we'll kind of talk about that a little bit more as we move on. Okay. Keep the questions coming. So the next step is class prep. One thing we do when we have our established class participants, when we're setting up the cast iron site to take ticket sales, one thing we do is ask people to include their email, the email of anybody who might be attending with them. When you export your order report list, you can just copy and paste right from that column. And what we do is we send them an email a couple days ahead of time, just introducing ourselves, telling them that we're so excited to meet them, What I have done is I've just created a template that I copy and paste now, which makes, this follow-up email take just a couple minutes. We cover when the class is going to be, where it's going to be. You want to make things as easy as possible for people. So I just link it right to Google Maps so they can click on it if they're not familiar with where they're going. And then the details, what to expect, what we're going to cover. Also important to put in this email, especially if you're doing classes during sick season, is what your cancellation policy is. Be transparent with people. In our policy, we have that, if you have COVID or you are sick, let us know as soon as possible. We'll work with you to come up with a solution. We did unfortunately have somebody once who she was in the hospital and we were able to move her ticket to the following month. So, you just kind of lay that out for people so that they're not, calling you or emailing you 30 minutes before class and you already have all their materials prepped. The next thing during class prep is going to be to invest in supplies that you can use across multiple classes. So from a cookie standpoint, I buy scribe tools in bulk. I bought a bunch of scissors off of Amazon that after class, I take those home, sanitize them. Emily does the same with cutting boards and knives. Just things that you make that initial investment in, but then can use class after class. The next one is probably the most important is prep your class materials and understand that it is going to take you way longer than you think. Make sure you give yourself adequate time.
I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off the first one because I just was like, I underestimated how long it was going to take me to get everyone's personal station set up. So then, over the course of the next few workshops, I was much more prepared and I knew to have this done before I even arrived, at the venue, and it just went a lot smoother. So a lot of it is trial and error, but yeah, you want to give yourself as much time as you can.
Right. Okay. And then, usually what we do, back to that email, put something about the event space. Like, for example, when we went to that restaurant, we said the bar will be open, food will be served if you would like to order anything. That's something else. Maybe it'll come back to me. All right. And then one thing we always do too is we bring some sort of snack or sample for people as well. So at one of our classes, Emily brought like some seasonal pretzels. I think they were pumpkin spice pretzels.
Yeah.
They were delicious. I brought some chocolate cookies once for people to try, kind of a new flavor to kind of dredge up interest in those. For our November class, I brought little drumstick shaped cookies, just so that people can try and see what your work looks like as well. I know what I was going to say too. When we go back to the cost, I have seen some people that will, work with, let's say there's a bar at the establishment that you're going to be hosting your class. They might upcharge their ticket price by $3 or $4 and then include a drink for the participants. So basically that would be money that you're giving to the bar, but then the customers get a free drink. So just things to think about as well. All right. So, Emily, me, you, I don't know.
Okay, so we're covered up. We're like covering up the words, so I can't see anything. Oh, here, I just need to move it over. Swear it's not my first time using a computer. So class prep, which is something we kind of touched on, and making sure you're as prepped as possible. So for me, from the charcuterie standpoint, I make sure I've got all of my dry ingredients, like my nuts and my crackers and all that stuff completely prepped in the dry box beforehand. Cold stuff in the cold box that goes in the fridge right when I get to the venue. Something we learned right away. Well, Leah came prepared for the first one with her visuals, but I didn't think to have, a visual in front of them. So some people had cut the cheese or had sliced the manchego wrong the first time. And so I felt terrible about that. And so I thought, okay, well, I need to have a visual for people to look at so they understand exactly what I'm talking about. So for the next few workshops, I made the exact board that we were going to be making in class. before class, took a picture of it, printed out a copy for everyone so that when I was explaining, where to place certain things on the board, they had a visual to go in reference to. We both also come with kind of like an outline on how we're going to do things and in what order we're going to do things, because having a visual for yourself even is really, really important. And then of course, the most important part is to relax and have fun. Leah and I usually get there, we cheers, we have a quick drink and get pumped up for the class and welcome everyone. And it really is a fun time. A lot of these are, moms who are looking to get out, a girls' night. We've had, mothers bring their sons, and it's just a really, really fun time. It's a good way for you to, meet and engage with your community and just most importantly, get new customers. There are people who have come to workshops who maybe came because they saw the post on Leah's page, but since then they've learned about my business and they've ordered boards from me. So it really is a great way to get your name out there as well.
Absolutely. And I know we're kind of already running low on time. So we covered the most important stuff though, prepping the class. Then when it comes to the actual class time, make sure you get yourself there early, give yourself time to set up. We always give a 30-minute window pre-instruction for our guests to arrive, grab a drink, find a seat, get comfortable. And then there's a lot to learn. We take notes of what we're going to include in our follow-up email and just keep it fun, keep it simple. A lot of people are there just for a fun night out. And just make sure everyone is enjoying themselves. By the way, these are my friends from high school.
And look how good their cookies are. Leah's such a good teacher. They did such good cookies.
And then I just want to touch on this one, to frost or not to frost, that there, and I can follow up with people after the class on this too, but I don't do any decorating in the class. I make sure to have everything prepped ahead of time with the visuals. I do know some people look for venues where they can set up a projector and do stuff real time. I would maybe consider doing that if I was teaching a more intermediate or advanced level class. But for basic beginners, I don't frost.
No.
And then again, I encourage people to ask questions, take pictures, and overall just have a good time. And I also love Emily's face in this picture.
Proud. I'm just always so proud of my students.
But yeah, then during class, make sure you're walking around and chatting with people. It really helps you get to know your customer base, teaches them that, you are a real person, and it has grown our customer base and, shown people the value in what we do. We ask for feedback from people. What did you enjoy? Is there something you would change? We've gotten some great criticism from people that has helped us shape our future classes. All right. And Emily, you want to cover this one quick?
Yeah, this is just a quick final thing is always after the workshop, Leah sends out, she's always the first one, she's on top of it, sends out a hello, thank you guys for coming. Here's a follow-up on what we learned. She mentions this in the class that we're going to send this follow-up email out. So she links everything to, her cookie recipe, her icing recipe, her wish list for supplies. I try and from a charcuterie standpoint, tell people these are the cheeses that we used in the workshop. This is where you can get those cheeses. Then I have a lot of people email me back asking specific questions, but it gets your contact info out there so people can ask those specific questions if they want them. And then, it just makes people feel special when they get that follow-up email, knowing that they're valued. We're happy that they came. And if they want to reference back to anything, that's where they can find it.
Absolutely. And I think most importantly on this slide too, is don't be afraid to share your secrets. If we've learned anything, it's that it helps people to appreciate what it is that we do. And it's actually driven more business than taking it away from us.
Do not gatekeep. When we first started, my mom said to me, you're going to teach people your craft. What if they don't order from you anymore? What if, this makes your business slow down? And I was like, no, they're going to see how difficult it is and how much money they would spend on their own to purchase all of these things on their own versus ordering from me. They're going to save time. They're going to save money. They're going to save energy, and they're going to get to know me as a person. And so many of my customers have become friends. So if you're worried about teaching people how to do it is what you do, like they're going to order from you less, it does the exact opposite.
Absolutely. And then we just have a couple of quick questions. Emily, can we cover those quick before we jump off?
Yeah, we've got 60 seconds to rush through some questions before our next session to keep the trains running on time.
Rapid. Emily, do you sell boards that customer pick up? How do you package them?
I get all of my boards from Webstaurant. So I buy boards of all different sizes and they come with a lid, super easy to transport. And yeah, I either deliver or my customers pick up for me.
All right, and then Matt asked us, how do you educate your class attendees on how they can buy from you in the future? Do you give them business cards or take home materials? Yeah, most people I think follow us on social media. That's how they found out about the classes, but we do have business cards on site that people can take home. When we follow up emails, we have links to our different various social media sites, websites, stuff like that.
Nice. And with cast iron, you can add them to your email list and keep them buying, right?
Yeah.
Amazing. Well, thank you guys so much. This was so valuable, so incredible. Really appreciate you taking the time. Our